Now, ladies and gentlemen, metas specifically for weapons in Counter-Strike Global Offensive. We're going to be looking over the most overpowered ones as well as the main ones in CSGO. What was the best era for CSGO metas? Was it the AWP before it got nerfed with the movement, where that affected quite a bit of people? When you scope down sight, you could actually move around without the scope really having a lot of sway. You didn't have to stand still when you shot the AWP, or at least you could have a little more accuracy when moving. December 2015, you had the R8 revolver released. A couple months later, it ended up getting nerfed. That was very, very broken, and that kind of ruined that weapon for CSGO. You had other things like the P250 and the TAC-9, otherwise known as the Rec-9 Rush B, where this thing was a walking AK-47, where you could walk onto a bomb site and destroy anyone you saw on your perimeter. And here we are in today's day and age of April in 2022, where things are a little odd, right? The M4A4 is once again under the rug. The M4A1S on the T side is once again out. And of course, the T side doesn't really change a whole lot unless the SG and AUG really play a huge play into that, which currently they're not at this moment in time. Now, today's video sponsor is, of course, SkinsMonkey. Now, if you guys are unfamiliar with what SkinsMonkey is, they are currently the biggest growing Counter-Strike Global Offensive trading marketplace for skins, which is absolutely amazing, with great fees as well. Let's just say you guys have some skins you're really not feeling anymore. SkinsMonkey is the best way to trade them. In this trade, to be exact, I actually profited 18 cents, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but considering it's a trading website, it's actually very, very good. Sign up today to get up to a $5 bonus, which is very nice. And if you've never used the website before, well, you can use my code MANDO, go up to the top right, you claim that bonus. And if you guys want to deposit with real life cash or crypto, you get a 25% deposit bonus, which is very, very nice. So in the later months of 2015, we saw the AWP. And before that, for a lot of people who were not playing the game, the AWP was a pretty overpowered weapon. And some might say and argue today that it's still very overpowered. Just a couple months ago, we had a lot of pro players before the Stockholm Major talk about how they wanted to see a change with the AWP, get it nerfed a little more, because it's really not that hard to be great with the AWP. Obviously at that higher level, like Simple or someone else like that, it can be a little easier for them, but it's a lot harder than it looks at their level. But in later months of 2015, this thing got nerfed, where your movement speed was literally cut in half, as well as when you moved, the scope actually swayed a lot more, and it was not very accurate. And it pretty much changed how you used the AWP in all of CSGO, and it was just kind of crazy to think about that. And it affected a lot of people, including pro players, but I would say a lot of people in matchmaking as well. You didn't really see the AWP pulled out as much, and really anyone could use it at this point in time. It took a long time for a lot of people to get used to that. Some may argue that's some of the reason a lot of these pro players actually ended up retiring, because of their skill with that weapon, how it decreased so much. A lot of people always talk about, Kenny S back in the day, even JW, how they were so much better before this update. And I would go ahead and say, yes, that's probably true. But I think this nerf was kind of needed in CSGO because the AWP was a lot easier to use. If you go back on Steam, let's just say you can go back and play an older update, but before 2015, you'll be able to see how this AWP is a lot easier to use as the gameplay on screen here. Now, later in 2017, we actually saw a nerf to the TAC-9, which this was wanted and needed for years and years at this point in time. Really, before I would say 2017 and 2018, CS wasn't really in the best place. The devs did not really care about the game. They did not care about the majors. They didn't really have any big community with the community, if that makes any sense. They didn't have any connection with us. They didn't talk to us. And after this, I would say it got a lot better, and including this time of year, it's gotten a lot better. Even look at Riptide. I mean, they changed the operation coin because people complained about it. That's something Valve would not do until this year. It was kind of crazy, which was listen to the community. And I think this was a really big thing that was needed in the game, because you had a pistol that was $500 and you could headshot and literally run and tap anybody you saw with this pistol. And it wasn't just this either. It was the P250. It was the 5.7. The 5.7, a lot of people forget about this too. You were able to be 100% accurate on ladders with the 5.7 until a later nerf in 2017 with this update, and going forward with other pistol updates once again. Pistols weren't always broken in CS. I mean, the earlier months inside of Counter-Strike Global Offensive, they weren't too bad. People started finding these things and abusing them though, like the 5.7 where it was very accurate on ladders. The TAC-9 originally wasn't very good. Then they buffed it, and then it wasn't very good once again, and then they buffed it again, and of course it was way too overpowered. And then of course you had the CZ, where it had a lot more bullets, it reloaded a lot quicker, and it was a little more accurate. That was the main weapon a lot of people used for a long time as well, over the TAC-9 and 5.7. And of course they nerfed that thing to the ground, where you don't really ever see that in game anymore, maybe besides the odd person who's very accurate it and likes it over the Tech 9 and 5.7, which I don't mind it every once in a while. And a lot of people may argue that they've never even really touched the Tech 9 and 5.7 since the pistol changes back in 2017, going back into 2016 or 2018. And for this update, I think it was needed as well. Like, I think this update was very, very good. It was something we needed and probably needed a couple years prior in like 2015 or 2016, kind of when we had the op nerf. The pistols were just so overpowered. It was kind of crazy to see people rushing long, like in a lot of pro plays and tournaments with Tech 9s, right? You saw this with Fnatic and VP back in the day. They'd rush up Cat or long on Dust 2, and they'd be able to take out people with ops and rifles on the CT side, even AKs. And of course, on the rifle side of things, we saw a lot with the M4A1S. I mean, this thing had a price increase, had a price decrease. The magazine size went from being over 30 now to 20, then 20 to 30. It went from shooting super fast to one of the fastest shooting guns in the game to being one of the very slowest rifles in the game, but it was pretty accurate. And I think this nerf for the A1S was actually pretty decent. It wasn't great, and the reason I say that is because it kind of nerfed this weapon into the ground for such a long time where no one even touched it. The M4A4 was the statement of the CT side for Counter-Strike Global Offensive for like 2 to 3 years. Realistically, since like 2015, ever since we saw that update where it nerfed the M4A1S quite a bit. And to give you guys an idea of what this was like, I mean, this thing was pretty much like a full functioning P90 at a 30 round clip where you could just walk around the map. It was silenced, so it was hard to hear. You couldn't see it on the mini map as a T. Obviously, you had to hit the head twice if they had head armor, which wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it was a pretty good weapon, especially if you were on the CT side. There wasn't really a reason for you to use the M4A4 at that point in time, even if it had 10 bullets more after it got nerfed. So this thing ended up getting nerfed. People started using the A4, which was pretty good, but they've never been able to find a balance between the two, which has really, really sucked. And recently in my Mando Monday video, someone's suggesting switching the price of the A1S and the M4A4 to the exact same price, which is decent, and then having them both equipped at the same time. You could just click whatever one you wanted, but I feel like if they're going to be the same damage, same fire rate and whatnot, people are most likely always going to go with the A1S just because of the fire rate and how easy it is to control the spray. That's why a lot of people go with the A1S, and that's why people use it in an aim training warm-up, because it has realistically no recoil, and the spray pattern on it is one of the easiest, if not the easiest in the game to learn. So what do I rate this nerf? I think this nerf was needed as well, but I think they could have done things a little different. I think they could have done things with the M4A4 to maybe make it on par, to make it a little more fair, obviously. And with some other famous ones, once again, we have the SG and the AUG, of course, and this thing was really, really powerful in 2019 going into 2020. People started realizing this weapon was extremely overpowered. We were walking around with the Call of Duty guns that were scoped down sight for $3,000, and then Valve obviously ended up making them a lot cheaper on top of the M4A1S, the M4A4, and the AK, so pretty much the exact same price. So people didn't really see a point in buying, the M4A4 or the M4A1S, just buy an AUG, and this is what the meta was for a very long time. The SG actually had a higher fire rate and a higher damage than the AK-47 at the time, and what I mean by higher fire rate, they had an extremely higher fire rate, which is just kind of crazy to think about, and you had a scope on top of it. The sprays for the SG were extremely easy. You just pulled extremely fast down to the left side of your mouse pad, and then the spray would just even out. And the AUG was a little over the place. It was like down, up, side, like a Super Mario hack. And then when they nerfed these things, a lot of people were shocked, but it was kind of needed, right? Because at the time when this meta was going on in CS, this is all people were using, right? It wasn't like the AWP back in the day where everyone always bought an AWP. It was kind of just like the AWP, whoever had it, you knew who had it, and it was actually a very big thing. Not to say it's not today, but having an SG and an AUG back then, it was kind of what everyone had. Everyone was just walking around the map with either that or a deagle, and ops weren't really acceptable. They were, but they weren't used as much as they are today in a different way. And what they did for this nerf is they made the price more expensive, and then they nerfed the fire rate, which actually pretty much got cut in half. So it was just starting to fire like how a CZ would, or something very, very crappy that would shoot like 1 bullet every 4 seconds. So that made those weapons pretty much non-viable, and the game kind of went back to normal. And then speaking of normal, we went back to Operation Riptide, the most recent operation in CS, and they nerfed the Desert Eagle, which I think was actually a very good nerf inside of CSGO. And the reason being for this, people might be upset by this, people might not be upset by this. The Deagle, if you're a rank over Gold Nova 3 or even Gold Nova 4 going into the MGs, especially on the matchmaking side of things, most people know how to use a Deagle, and most people know how to aim, especially with a Deagle. So the Deagle was pretty much a pocket op or AK because everyone could just always hit the head, especially if you were playing on something like Stretched. You had really no excuse not to hit the head in that sort of situation and scenario. So this, as of right now, I think was a very good nerf because everyone was very good with the Deagle, and you can still be good with the Deagle if you can hit the head. It just lowered it to a 3 to 4 shot one-shot body kill, which I think is great for the price of $700. I think that's really fair, and I think it might be one of the best nerfs we've seen on this entire list today. And tell me guys what your favorite meta was in all of CSGO. Was it the Rec 9 Rush B? Was it the SG and AUG? Was it the AWP before it was buffed and nerfed? Was it the AWP before it was nerfed? Was it the M4A1S before it was nerfed back in 2015? Or was it the R8 for hell's sake? Love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinion. And for my personal favorite, my favorite meta I think was probably in 2015 before they nerfed the AWP and changed all the weapon sounds in 2016, and the M4A1S before it was nerfed. I think those things were very fun to use. I don't think they were the most balanced, but I think they were very fun. I think where we are in Counter-Strike Global Offensive today with the current meta, I think it's probably the most balanced we've ever seen it. Everyone uses a variety of different weapons. You can buy an SG, you can buy an AUG if you're on the opposite side and you have a lot of money saved up and you're on a map like Dust 2. Maybe someone can't buy an AWP, so you buy an AUG, go long, you watch that. The only thing I wish they would change is maybe, you know, the M4A1S and the M4A4, make them on par, and that's going to be a battle that I think we'll never really see the end of until CSGO is finally dead one day. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please comment, like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, link down in the description below. If you guys want to see more videos like this, let me know in the comments. Love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Let me know what you guys' favorite meta was in CSGO. I'm out, guys. Peace, stay positive, stay sexy, gamers.